In this video, we explore the rare but chilling cases of female serial killers in the United States. Notorious women who planned, killed, and sometimes evaded justice for years. The video will tell about them, what were their crimes, and how they were arrested. Tilly Klimek. Tilly Klimek was a Polish-American serial killer active in Chicago. According to reports, she pretended to have prophetic dreams, accurately predicting the dates of death of her victims, when, in reality, she was simply scheduling their death. Tilly Klimek, born Otylia Gburek in 1876 in Poland, immigrated to the United States as an infant and settled in Chicago's Little Poland neighborhood. Tilly married her first husband, Joseph Mitkiewicz, in 1895. He died in 1914 after a brief illness, with the cause listed as heart trouble. She quickly remarried Joseph Ruskowski, who also died shortly thereafter. Her third husband, Frank Kupchik, became ill in 1921, and Tilly eerily predicted his death to neighbors, even knitting her mourning hat before his passing. After Frank's death, she married Joseph Klimek in 1921. When Joseph Klimek became very sick, doctors thought he had been poisoned with arsenic, and tests proved they were right. Tilly was arrested, and during questioning, she joked to the officer, "The next person I want to cook dinner for is you." After that, police dug up the bodies of her previous husbands and found that they had also been poisoned with arsenic. Her cousin, Nellie Kulik, was the one to give Tilly the poison. After Klimek was arrested, people found out that many of her relatives and neighbors had gotten sick or died. Two neighbors she argued with got very sick after eating candy she gave them. A dog that bothered her also died from poison. Several family members became sick after eating at her house. In total, she was linked to 20 suspected victims, and 14 of them died. Later, it was found that she had taken out life insurance policies on her husbands, from which she profited greatly. In March 1923, Tilly Klimek was convicted of the murder of her third husband, Frank Kupchik, and sentenced to life imprisonment. Nellie Kulik was acquitted after spending a year in jail during her trial. Tilly Klimek died in prison on November 20, 1936, at the age of 60. She was laid to rest at the Bohemian National Cemetery in Chicago. Janine Jones. Janine Ann Jones was responsible for the deaths of up to 60 infants and children in her care as a licensed vocational nurse during the 1970s and 1980s. Born on July 13, 1950, in Texas, Janine Jones pursued a career in nursing, eventually working in the Pediatric Intensive Care Unit, PICU, at Bexar County Hospital in San Antonio. Between 1979 and 1982, many babies became very sick while Janine Jones was taking care of them. Some had seizures or their hearts suddenly stopped. Later, it was found that Jones had been giving these babies dangerous and deadly doses of medicine they didn't need. In 1982, at a pediatric clinic in Kerrville, Texas, 15-month-old Chelsea McClellan was brought in for routine immunizations. While her mother held her, Jones gave her a fatal dose of a powerful muscle relaxant. Chelsea's sudden death raised suspicions, leading to a deeper investigation into Jones's actions. In 1984, Jones was convicted of murder for Chelsea McClellan's death and sentenced to 99 years in prison. That same year, she received an additional 60-year sentence for the attempted murder of Rolando Santos, a 4-week-old infant who survived a heparin overdose. As Jones was about to be released in 2018, new investigations started into other suspicious deaths. In 2017, She was charged with killing 11-month-old Joshua Sawyer in 1981. Jones admitted guilt in 2020 and was given a life sentence. Janine Jones is currently in prison in Texas, serving a life sentence. Suzanne Basso, Suzanne Margaret, Sue. Basso was an American woman who was convicted in 1998 torture and murder of Louis Musso. Suzanne Basso, born Suzanne Margaret Burns in 1954 in New York, was a mother of two who later moved to Texas. Her victim was 59-year-old Louis Buddy Musso, a mentally challenged man from New Jersey who met Suzanne through a church singles group. Suzanne quickly convinced him to move to Texas, promising marriage and a new life. Instead of a loving partner, Buddy found himself trapped with Suzanne and a group of accomplices, including her son, her daughter's fiancé, and several others. For days, they tortured him, beatings, burns, and brutal abuse, all while forcing him to sign over his life insurance and other assets. In August 1998, Buddy Musso's battered body was found near Houston. Suzanne Basso was arrested and charged with capital murder. Prosecutors argued that she orchestrated the entire plan, manipulating others to carry out the gruesome acts. In 1999, Suzanne was convicted and sentenced to death. Despite multiple appeals over the years, the courts upheld her sentence. On February 5, 2014, Suzanne Basso was executed by lethal injection in Texas. Before her execution, Suzanne Basso declined to make a final statement. Christine Falling. Christine Falling is an American serial killer known as the Killer Babysitter. She was born on March 12, 1963 in Perry, Florida. Her mother left when she was little, and she and her sister were adopted in 1967 by Dolly and Jesse Falling. Christine had a rough childhood. She struggled in school, had seizures, and dropped out early. Family members later said that even as a child, Christine showed disturbing behavior, like strangling cats or dropping them from high places to see if they had 9 lives. In 1980, Falling was hired to babysit 2-year-old Cassidy Johnson, known as Muffin, in Blountstown, Florida. Within hours, Cassidy became unresponsive and died 3 days later, with doctors initially attributing her death to brain inflammation. Later in her confession, Falling said, "Well, it was I'd say about 8:30. She got kinda rowdy or something. Anyway, I choked her until she quit breathing and she had turned purple." 4 months later, 8-month-old Jennifer Daniels died under Falling's care. Once again, the death was ruled natural. In February 1981, 4-year-old Jeffrey Davis passed away while Falling was supervising him, and just days after his funeral, his 2-year-old cousin, Joseph Spring, also died under her care. In July 1982, 2-month-old Travis Coleman was in Falling's care for the evening. That night, Travis was found dead in Falling's trailer. His death caused the police to investigate, which later led to Falling's arrest. Falling later admitted, "I just choked him. No apparent reason. I just picked him off his pallet and choked him to death and laid him back down." In 1982, Christine was arrested. After hours of interrogation, she confessed to the murders. She was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. Christine Falling was sentenced to life in prison. Falling is imprisoned at the Lowell Correctional Institution in Ocala, Florida. Frances Newton, USA. Frances Elaine Newton was an American convicted murderer who was executed by lethal injection in the state of Texas. Frances Elaine Newton was a 21-year-old mother living in Houston, Texas. She lived with her husband, Adrian Newton, and their two children, 7-year-old Alton and 21-month-old Farah. On April 7, 1987, she murdered her husband, Adrian, age 23, her son, Alton, age 7, and her daughter, Farah, 20 months. All three victims were shot with a .25 caliber pistol, which belonged to a man that Newton had been seeing at the time. Newton claimed that a drug dealer killed the three. It was later found that she had purchased life insurance policies for her family. According to the prosecution, she killed them to get $100,000 life insurance money. A .25 caliber pistol was found hidden in a relative's home, wrapped in cloth, though Frances denied killing her family till the end. On October 25, 1988, Newton was convicted of murders and sentenced to death. She spent nearly 17 years on death row before being executed by lethal injection on September 14, 2005. Frances Newton's final statement was brief. She said, "I just want to say, I know everybody's going through a lot of pain. I'm sorry. I don't want to say I'm sorry because I'm not guilty. I just want you to know that I did not do this, okay?" For her last meal, Frances Newton had fried chicken, green beans, mashed potatoes with gravy, peach cobbler, and sweet tea. Teresa Lewis, USA. Teresa Wilson, Bean Lewis, was an American murderer who was sentenced to death by lethal injection for the murders of her husband and stepson in October 2002. Teresa Wilson Bean. Lewis was born on April 26, 1969, in Virginia. She grew up in a working-class family, married young, and had a daughter. By her late 30s, she was married to Julian Lewis, a truck driver, and living in Pittsylvania County, Virginia. On October 30, 2002, Julian Lewis and his 25-year-old son, Charles Lewis, were shot and killed in their home. Teresa Lewis called 911, saying there had been a robbery. In the fall of 2002, Teresa Lewis met 21-year-old Matthew Jesse Schallenberger and 19-year-old Rodney Lamont Fuller at a Walmart in Danville. She hired the two men to kill her husband and stepson to collect the insurance money. On the night of October 30th, Schallenberger and Fuller entered the Lewis's trailer through a back door that Teresa had left open. While she waited in the kitchen, Schallenberger shot the sleeping Julian several times, while Fuller shot Charles in his bedroom with a shotgun. Teresa Lewis pleaded guilty and was sentenced to death in 2003. Schallenberger and Fuller received life in prison. Lewis was executed on September 23, 2010, at 9:13 p.m. by lethal injection at Greensville Correctional Center near Jarrett. Her last meal was 2 fried chicken breasts, sweet peas with butter, a Dr. Pepper, and apple pie for dessert. Lewis's final words were for her stepdaughter, Kathy Lewis Clifton, who came to witness her execution, to apologize for killing her brother and father. "I just want Kathy to know that I love you, and I'm very sorry. Marilyn Plants, USA." Marilyn K. Plants was executed on the 1st of May, 2001 for killing her husband in 1988. Marilyn lived in Midwest City, Oklahoma. She was married, had 2 children, and worked at a local newspaper. Friends described her as quiet, polite, and devoted to her family. She began an affair with a 19-year-old co-worker named William Bryson. In August 1988, Marilyn K. Plants planned the murder of her husband, James Plants, because she wanted to get about $300,000 from his life insurance. She convinced Bryson and his friend, Clinton McKimball, to help carry out her plan. She promised them a share of the insurance money if they killed her husband. On the evening of August 26, 1988, when James Plants returned home from work, he was ambushed by Bryson and McKimble. They beat him with aluminum baseball bats, dragged him into his pickup truck, drove him to a remote area, doused him with gasoline, and set him on fire while he was still alive. Bryson and McKimble confessed, implicating Marilyn as the mastermind. In 1989, Marilyn Plants was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. Both Bryson and McKimble received life sentences. Bryson was later executed in 2000. She spent 12 years on death row. On May 18, 2001, Marilyn Plants was executed by lethal injection at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAlester. She was 40 years old at the time of her death. Her last meal was a salad with ranch dressing, chicken fajitas, French fries, a fruit bowl, and Dr. Pepper. Brenda Andrew, USA. Brenda Andrew was convicted in 2004 for orchestrating the 2001 murder of her estranged husband, Rob Andrew. Brenda and Rob Andrew were in the process of divorcing in 2001. On November 20, 2001, Rob was fatally shot in the garage of their Oklahoma City home when he arrived to pick up their children for Thanksgiving. Brenda claimed that 2 masked men were responsible for the attack. However, upon investigation, it was found that Rob had a life insurance policy in his name for $800,000. Later, it was revealed that Brenda had planned to kill Rob with her boyfriend, James Pavitt. After the murder, they both fled to Mexico, where they were caught and brought back to America. In 2004, Brenda Andrew was convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. She was sentenced to death and has been at the Mabel Bassett Correctional Center since then. James Pavitt was also convicted and sentenced to death. In January 2025, the Supreme Court agreed to review her case. The outcome of this review is yet to come. As of May 2025, Brenda Andrew remains on death row in Oklahoma. Virginia Larzalier, USA. Virginia Gale Larzalier was convicted of conspiring to kill her husband with her son on March 8, 1991. Virginia was born on December 27, 1952, in Lake Wales, Florida. She married Dr. Norman Larzalier, a successful dentist, and became the office manager of his practice. On that fateful afternoon of March 8, 1991, a masked gunman entered Dr. Larzalier's dental office and shot him with a shotgun. Witnesses heard the victim cry out, "Jason, is that you?" suggesting the involvement of Virginia's 18-year-old son, Jason Larzalier. Investigators found that Virginia had taken out multiple life insurance policies on her husband, totaling over $2 million. She also made a fake will that gave her all of his money and property. In 1992, Virginia Larzalier was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. Her son, Jason, was also charged, but was acquitted after a separate trial. In 2008, the Florida Supreme Court vacated Virginia's death sentence. She was resentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. Right now, after 33 years, Virginia Larzalier is still in prison at Lowell Correctional Institution in Florida. Lois Nadian Smith. Lois Nadian Smith was convicted of murdering 21-year-old Cindy Bailey in Gans, Sequoyah County, on the 4th of July, 1982. Lois Nadian Smith was born on September 12, 1940, in Oklahoma. In 1965, she married James Hork Smith, with whom she had several children. Later, they got a divorce because of domestic violence. On the morning of July 4th, 1982, Smith, her son, Greg, and a woman named Teresa Baker picked up Greg's 21-year-old ex-girlfriend, Cindy Bailey, from a motel in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. While they were driving, Smith asked Cindy about a rumor that she wanted Greg dead. Cindy denied the rumor. Smith then choked Bailey and stabbed her in the neck. They drove to Smith's ex-husband's house in Gans, Oklahoma, where the attack continued. Smith made Bailey sit in a chair, scared her with a gun, and then shot her several times. An autopsy showed Bailey was shot 9 times and stabbed once. Smith was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. During her trial, she claimed that she was under the influence of alcohol and drugs at the time of the crime and that she was trying to protect her son. She was sentenced to death. On December 4, 2001, at the age of 61, she was executed by lethal injection at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in McAlester, Oklahoma. Amelia Carr. Amelia Lily Carr was convicted of first-degree murder and kidnapping of Heather Strong on February 2009. Amelia was born on August 4, 1984. She was known for her intelligence, with a psychologist estimating her IQ at 125. Her early life was full of trauma. At 15, she accused her father of abuse, but later took it back. In 2004, he was jailed for 4 years for trying to hire someone to kill Amelia, her mother, and sister. She got married twice and had 3 children. In November 2008, Carr became engaged to Joshua Fulgham. However, just a month later, Fulgham married Heather Strong, a 26-year-old woman. Despite this, Carr maintained contact with the couple and even babysat their children. On February 15, 2009, Heather Strong was reported missing. Her body was discovered on March 19th, buried in a shallow grave near a storage trailer in Boardman, Florida. Investigators found that Carr, who was 7 months pregnant with Fulgham's baby, tricked Strong into coming to the trailer. There, Carr tried to break her neck and then suffocated her with a plastic bag while she was tied to a chair with duct tape. Carr was arrested on March 24th after making multiple statements to authorities and being recorded discussing the crime with Fulgham's sister. In December 2010, Carr was found guilty of first-degree murder and kidnapping. She was sentenced to death by lethal injection in February 2011. In May 2017, Carr was resentenced to life without parole. As of May 2025, Amelia Carr is serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole in Florida.